Next up in our ongoing NFL team previews is the Kansas City Chiefs, the Super Bowl loser Kansas City Chiefs. But I'm here to remind you, as I tend to do every single year, that it doesn't matter if you hate Travis Kelce or if you hate Patrick Mahomes or if you hate the fact that the Chiefs are in virtually every Super Bowl for the last, 6 years. It doesn't matter if you hate Taylor Swift, even though you shouldn't hate Taylor Swift. She's one of the greatest songwriters of all time. If you look into it at all, you would realize that. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you hate every last thing about the Kansas City Chiefs. Here to remind you again that first and foremost, what we're hearing from camp, which is no surprise to me at all, is that Patrick Mahomes is doing things, showing things that should scare the rest of the NFL, as now they're on a little bit of a revenge tour after their Super Bowl loss. Now, we know historically for many Super Bowl losers, look at the 49ers last season, look at the Eagles the season before. Many Super Bowl losers have that hangover, right? Things don't go well the next season. I do think that the Chiefs are in a much more vulnerable position, in a much tougher division, in a much tougher AFC with other contenders that have an easier path to the Super Bowl and to the AFC title game. But these are still the Kansas City Chiefs who love them or hate them. There's a reason why they win. There's a reason why they get to the promised land most years. And that's because Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and the culture that they've formed, the winning mindset that they have is elite, right? It's Tom Brady-esque. I do think that others in the NFL, Joe Burrow, maybe Josh Allen, maybe Lamar Jackson, we'll see. But there aren't many who have that mentality. I think you can say that Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles, as much as I don't want to admit it, they have found some sort of edge. At the end of the day, it's important to remember too, like something that I always remind people, which is why a lot of professional handicappers look at underdogs every week, is because at the end of the day, these are professionals, right? These are guys who dominated in high school. Many of them dominated in college. And although the leap to the NFL is really different, they can do their job, right? If they put in the work, if the mindset is right, if the habits are right, they can become champions most of the time. And that's why the differentiator, right, the thing that sets a team or a player apart, especially sets a team apart when it's the coach and quarterback, is that mental edge, right? The mental perspective, the mindset, whatever you want to say. And the Chiefs have that. We know that. Now let's get to talking in a little more detail about last season, coming into this season, what their concerns are. But just as a reminder, although I actually do not think that they'll go to the Super Bowl this season, I've been saying that, but you should not be surprised if they are. Okay. Now, last season, 2024, it is hard to believe that this team even made the Super Bowl since their offense as a whole was very average, right? Dealing with injuries, dealing with a lot of rotation and turnover in their wide receiver group. It speaks to Patrick Mahomes and his magic, right? He just makes things happen. They were great on third and fourth downs, but they were the second worst running team in the NFL, 31st overall, 3.9 yards per carry, and they were average in the passing game. Pretty crazy to say that Patrick Mahomes was average. But again, their schedule is always extremely difficult. Last year was ridiculously difficult. They still managed to make it to the Super Bowl and to be one of the top teams in the AFC. Now, in the offseason, Joe Thuney leaving this team is a big deal. They have a little bit of a vulnerability now at left guard. The guy that they chose to replace him is, I don't have his name in front of me right now, but he's received some questionable grades from pretty much every source I've looked at. But they did draft a tackle, Josh Simmons from Ohio State. He got injured at one point, but the talent is obvious. It's a good pickup. In general, critics are very high on the Chiefs draft and who they managed to bring in. But that left side of the line is something we'll need to watch this season, right? The right side still very good as a whole. The offensive line is still very good. But Joe Thuney was a big deal. He was also 32, final year of his contract. Made sense that the Chiefs did this. Ronnie Stanley was on the market, which is someone they could have brought over, but also not a spring chicken anymore. So the Chiefs are trying to build for the future. They know what they're doing. I think we ought to trust the Chiefs, and Brett Veach and what they do over there. But it's something to note, right? Joe Thuney leaving is a big deal. He's been there for a long time, and he's fortified the left side of their offensive line, the blind side of Patrick Mahomes. But like I stated at the very start of this episode on the Chiefs, is that indications from camp, although I'm sure every year Patrick Mahomes is blowing everyone's mind, they're saying he's different. Like Andy Reid, others, he's different. That should put the league on notice a little bit. This is a guy, an athlete, who kind of ascended to Jordan status after his third Super Bowl and MVP. And now he's even better, even scarier. That should raise some alarms. I also want to note that Isaiah Pacheco coming back is a big deal. He's a downhill runner. He was injured off and on last season. It's a big deal that he's back, and it's a big deal that he's fully healthy. I think he'll make a tremendous difference for their run game, and they certainly need to produce more in their run game. Again, left side of the offensive line could be vulnerable. Also, just something to keep in mind, especially on offense, the Chiefs just find a way, right? We've seen it from an assortment of different wide receivers. Like obviously Rashee Rice right now, if you haven't heard, is facing criminal charges. He's probably going to miss some games. Looks like he's going to be able to start the season, but they still have Hollywood Brown. I know Travis Kelce is not in his prime anymore, but his connection with Patrick Mahomes is legendary for a reason. We've seen it over and over again. They have enough, Xavier Worthy. They have enough guys to make it happen. And that's because they have Patrick Mahomes behind center. Their defense kept them in a lot of games last season. They were top 6 in points allowed, top 10 in yards allowed, top 6 against the run, average to below average against the passing attack in general, like mediocre 15th at getting to the quarterback, for example. Chris Jones kind of had a down year or two. He was in and out of injury concerns as well. They're very healthy. They spent most of the offseason re-signing a lot of their leaders on defense. I think that's a really good idea. They also added some depth at defensive line and cornerback in the draft. This is a defense that I just expect to pick up right where it left off. They have arguably the best cornerback in the game in McDuffie. Chris Jones is always a problem. They have a great linebacking crew. They have an ascending defensive line as far as some of their youth goes. So this is a defense that can still keep them in games. And if their offense produces better, which I would say I'm expecting positive regression from their offense, despite their Rashee Rice deal. Maybe the Chiefs decide to add somebody during the season, or maybe they do that right before week 1. But they always find a way on offense, not worried about their defense either. Now, their schedule, I would say it's medium hard. You're seeing some analysts out there say that it's one of the hardest schedules in the NFL. I think that qualifies, but I'm going to say it's medium hard. I mean, the NFC East is tough, but I don't think they'll have an issue with Dallas or New York. Philly and Washington could be a problem for anybody, but that's not the worst division to get, especially if you're the Chiefs and you have the defense that you have. Just a far more mature and less mistake-prone group are the Chiefs. And when you face a team like the Cowboys or the Giants, I think it's going to go your way most of the time in those situations if you're the Chiefs. They also face the AFC South, which other than the Texans shouldn't really scare anybody, right? So that's not the worst, like inter and intra-conference, or inter-conference and intra-divisional conference teams to face. The bigger games, though, they have Baltimore, they have the Lions, they have the Bills in their schedule. So basically they face every top program in the NFL, not to mention the Raiders are probably going to be better. I really like the Broncos this season. And we'll see from the Chargers, but the Chargers are going to be motivated, galvanized always to face off against the Chiefs, right? And we've seen them give them some pretty tough games. So their division is not easy. They face pretty much every elite team in the NFL this season on their schedule, but they still do have enough games in there. And these are the Chiefs, that double-digit wins, in my opinion, is probably still going to happen. But if their win total is still 11.5, which it is in most books, I have to strongly lean to the under. You're seeing that juiced at most shops. I know a lot of sharp bettors will not bet the over on this team this season with everything that I just mentioned. But I still give them a power rating of 87. They're a top 5 team in my power ratings, as they should be. They arguably, maybe not arguable, based on accomplishments, have the best player in the world still on their team. So an 87 that could easily become an 89, 90, 91, 92 best team in the NFL if they show up vengeful and focused, and if Patrick Mahomes is apparently this 2.0 version of himself. So I have nothing really revolutionary to say about the Chiefs other than be careful how much you fade this team. I don't know how well they're going to do against the spread. They weren't very good last year, something like 40%. Sorry that I don't have that right in front of me. And they think they're going to be a part of a lot of close games again. I don't think this is a team necessarily built to pull away, but it doesn't mean that they're not going to still stack up wins and be right there at the end in the season. If you get a discount on this team at any point during the season, right? Like if somehow they're like 3-4, or they're 4-3, or they're 5-4, consider their Super Bowl odds at that point, because anytime you get a discount on Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid in this team, it has value on it. With that, our next team up is the Miami Dolphins, who are going through some it is a clunky operation right there in Miami. Some controversy, a lot of injuries. Next up is the Dolphins. Watch out for those Chiefs.